Michael B. Jordan arrived at the studio that evening expecting the usual late-night banter and promotional cheer. Dressed in a crisp black suit with a calm demeanor, he walked confidently toward the Jimmy Kimmel live stage, unaware of the confrontation brewing behind the scenes. Backstage producers shuffled nervously, whispering about the segment Jimmy had planned. Michael's assistant noticed the tension, but Michael, always professional, brushed it off. The cameras rolled. The audience erupted in applause as Jimmy introduced him. With his usual charm, Michael stepped onto the stage, smiling and shaking hands. For the first few minutes, it felt routine. Light jokes, questions about his upcoming movie, and laughter. But soon, the tone shifted. Jimmy pivoted to a sensitive topic Michael hadn't agreed to discuss, one that hit too close to home. The smile on Michael's face faded ever so slightly, but the audience didn't notice. What started as comedy turned sharply personal. Jimmy leaned forward, smirking. "So, Michael, you've been called difficult to work with on set. What's up with that?" The audience chuckled, unsure if it was a joke or a jab. Michael's eyes narrowed. "Difficult," he echoed, clearly caught off guard. He took a beat before responding. "I take my work seriously. If that's difficult, then sure." Jimmy laughed, but it lacked warmth. "Come on, man, even your co-star joked you're intense. Lighten up a little." Michael's jaw tightened. He leaned back in his chair, his energy shifting from engaged to guarded. "I don't think that's funny," he said calmly. A hush fell over the crowd. Jimmy, clearly unprepared for pushback, tried to pivot. "It's all in fun, right?" he said, chuckling nervously. But the damage had been done. Michael's mood had changed. He wasn't about to be a punchline. He crossed his arms and stared ahead, refusing to feed the awkwardness with fake laughter. Jimmy, sensing the discomfort, doubled down rather than retreat. Okay, he said, grinning. "Maybe you're just method acting. 24/7. The crowd laughed uneasily. Michael didn't flinch. "Or maybe I just respect the work," he said, his voice low and steady. "Something a lot of people don't understand." Jimmy shrugged, but the tension was undeniable now. Producers backstage were whispering into headsets, debating whether to cut to commercial. Michael adjusted his mic, looked out at the audience, and then directly at Jimmy. "You invited me here to talk about my film," he said, "but it seems like you had another agenda." Jimmy fumbled. "It's just jokes, man." Michael shook his head. "Not everything's a joke." The audience clapped lightly, unsure who to support. It was a rare moment of realness on late-night television. Michael didn't shout, didn't storm off, not yet, but the temperature in the room had clearly spiked. As the interview continued, Jimmy tried to salvage the moment with lighter questions. But the air had shifted. The camaraderie that usually defined these interviews was gone. Michael answered each question curtly, deliberately. He no longer smiled. Jimmy rattled, kept glancing off camera, waiting for direction. The crew scrambled behind the scenes, adjusting to the tension. Michael's publicist, watching from the wings, exchanged glances with a producer. They both knew this was going south. Then came the final blow. Jimmy pulled up an out-of-context clip from a previous interview where Michael had spoken emotionally about a personal loss. Without warning or permission, the footage played behind them. Michael turned slowly to face the screen. When the clip ended, he looked back at Jimmy and said, "That wasn't okay." Jimmy, still trying to mask discomfort with a smirk, replied, "It's public, man, just showing your human side." Michael's face went cold. "That wasn't yours to use like that," he said. The audience shifted uncomfortably. No one laughed. Jimmy's smile faltered. "You're overreacting," he said, a line that immediately backfired. Michael stood up slowly. "I don't have to sit here and be disrespected," he said, removing his mic and setting it on the chair. Jimmy looked stunned. "You're leaving?" Michael gave a single nod. You wanted a moment? You got one. With that, he turned and walked off stage. The audience gasped. Some clapped. Others stayed silent, unsure how to respond. The cameras didn't cut to commercial fast enough. Millions of viewers saw it live. An A-list star standing up and walking out, not in rage, but in firm, unshakable defiance. It wasn't a meltdown. It was a boundary, one rarely seen in Hollywood's polished public image. Backstage, chaos erupted. Jimmy's producers rushed to coordinate damage control. Michael's team intercepted him with concern, but he was calm. They crossed a line, he said plainly. We're done here. Meanwhile, Jimmy stayed on stage, attempting to recover the show. He made a few awkward jokes and tried to brush it off. Well, that was unexpected, he said with a forced laugh. But the audience didn't respond. The energy had drained from the room. Twitter exploded with reactions. Clips of the confrontation circulated instantly. Some praised Michael for his composure. Others criticized Jimmy for the ambush. Celebrities chimed in. Respect matters, tweeted a fellow actor. Michael didn't respond publicly. He didn't need to. The moment spoke for itself. In a world full of noise, silence can sometimes scream the loudest, and that night, Michael's silence roared. By the next morning, the headlines were everywhere. Michael B. Jordan walks off Jimmy Kimmel live after tense interview. Every major outlet picked up the story. Analysts debated whether it was justified or overblown. Social media was divided, but one thing was clear. Michael's quiet exit had made more noise than most celebrity scandals. Talk show hosts scrambled to take sides. Some defended Jimmy, calling it misunderstood humor. Others admitted the clip looked bad. Michael remained silent. Instead of releasing a statement, he focused on his film's premiere later that week. Reporters shouted questions at red carpet events, but he simply smiled and moved on. The press didn't get what they wanted, and that made them chase harder. But Michael's refusal to play into the chaos only amplified the dignity of his walkout. It became a moment of principle. And the world took notice. Jimmy's team issued a short statement the following day, attempting to downplay the controversy. Last night's segment took an unexpected turn. We value all our guests and regret any discomfort. But the public wasn't satisfied. The apology felt vague and defensive. People wanted accountability, not corporate language. Meanwhile, Michael's fans organized online campaigns, trending hashtags like Respect Michael and Not Just Entertainment. Think pieces flooded the internet. What Michael B. Jordan taught us about boundaries, read one headline. The clash had sparked a broader conversation about how entertainers are treated in the media. Michael didn't demand respect. He expected it. And when it wasn't given, he left. That decision, captured on live television, became symbolic. It wasn't just about a talk show moment. It was about power, choice, and preserving one's dignity in a world that profits from spectacle. Behind closed doors, executives at the network were furious. Not at Michael, but at the handling of the interview. One executive reportedly said, "We just made an enemy out of the most respected guy in the industry." Jimmy, usually untouchable, was called into several meetings. Ratings were analyzed. Viewer feedback poured in, most of it negative. Michael's fan base wasn't just large, it was loyal. Advertisers noticed the backlash and began pulling promotional tie-ins for that week's show. It wasn't a full cancellation, but it was a warning. Jimmy's brand had taken a hit, and in Hollywood, reputation is currency. Meanwhile, Michael's silence became his loudest message. He had no need to retaliate. His values had already done the talking. While others were trying to spin the story, he had already moved on, carrying the power of his principles with him. Public reaction continued to grow. More celebrities began speaking out, some sharing their own uncomfortable moments on talk shows. "It's not always fun and games," one actress tweeted. "Sometimes they cross lines." It was as if Michael's walkout had broken open a dam. Stories poured out from people who had stayed silent for years. Jimmy's camp scrambled to manage the optics. His next few shows featured unusually soft interviews, avoiding controversial jokes. Viewers noticed. Critics called it the Jordan effect. Meanwhile, Michael continued promoting his work without referencing the incident. At every stop, he remained calm, focused, and gracious. But people could see the difference. He had walked away from disrespect and gained more respect. In return, his stand had become a symbol, not of ego, but of self-worth.